Good morning, everyone. This is Lori Delk-Radecki with the Nashville Networking Business Luncheon. If you are joining us online today, we always have a 10-minute speaker who talks to us about different tips, tricks, ideas, things that can help us both in our personal as well as our business life to help get us to that next level. We also meet 5 times a month all over Middle Tennessee in person. So if you'd like to see our schedule, it's at NashvilleNetworkingBusinessLuncheon.com. You can also join our groups on Facebook as well as LinkedIn to be notified of the events, as well as be notified of the different amazing speakers that we always have. So our speaker today is Mr. Robbie Grayson. So please give him your attention.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me, Lori?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I actually met Lori, I want to say, about almost a decade ago. My beard was black. So anyways, it's been a while. But I think, Lori, you and I met at another business kind of setup where network kind of group. But anyways, so for the last several years, I have been off to another venture. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I've lived in Nashville for 22 years, not by intention. It was quite honestly by accident. So I was raised overseas virtually my entire life. My father was military. I was actually sent to the States to go to college, to go into the military, and discover the entrepreneurial world. So I ended up becoming an entrepreneur. But I was not a business major. I was an entrepreneur out of necessity. So I've actually owned about 3 major companies, or I should say major in my life. So the first thing is I ran a school. I opened a school actually here in Franklin, Tennessee from 2000 to 2011. Oh, before that, I actually was a gymnastics instructor. Had my own little, I would outfit certain gyms with kind of gymnastics education. So I did that for a while, for a couple of years, and then I started my own school for about 11 years. But then the economy could not sustain that beyond 2007, 2008. But I didn't realize that. It was my first time going through this sort of cycle where the economy does not promote the kind of industry you're in, or the industry, the way that you're practicing the industry. So mine was a brick and mortar business. It was a school. So I finally shut my school down in 2011, and I actually wandered for a couple of years, moved here to a farm in Franklin, and I had been developing an app, or actually a psychometric, for several years, and I finally launched it in 2011 called Traitmarker. And I've had a lot of success with Traitmarker. It took it a while to get up off the ground, but it's essentially an online assessment. And there's tons of them out there. I'm not even going to talk about that today, but if you want, you can go to traitmarker.com and take the assessment for free. Traitmarker, traitmarker.com. By the way, you're not going to get any newsletter from me, and I'm not going to bother you, even though I'll have your information in my back office. But after a while of having Traitmarker, I got a lot of clients, and a lot of them were asking me about publishing. Now, I've also been involved in publishing. I'm not very proud of it, but I've been involved in political publishing ever since 2001, as a ghostwriter, as an advisor. So finally, I formalized my company back in 2005 called Traitmarker Books. And the reason I called it Traitmarker Books is because a lot of the clients who wanted me to write for them actually came through my Traitmarker company. But as you guys know, this pandemic over the last several months has really probably put you in the position, as it's put me and others, in a position of trying to figure out, how do I not retrofit, but how do I become flexible? How do I become flexible and not lose my market, or actually fine tune my market? I was in LA on business in March, the second week of March, when the lockdown order came to Tennessee. So like I said, I have 6 kids. Actually, 2 of my kids are graduated. They're in college. But my other four kids, it was my four kids, my wife and me and our cat, like on this farm from March until about August when they went back to school. And I learned a lot of things based on the way that people were needing me to be flexible in the publishing industry. And there's a quote I want to give you, and it's based on a concept called the streetlight effect. And the quote goes that a drunk man looks for his keys, not where he dropped them, but where the light is. And that's based on this little, cute little story about a drunk man who at night has lost his keys. He's drunk, so he's not looking for his keys where he might have dropped them. He's going to where the light is, and he's looking around for his keys in the light. And a police officer comes up and says, "Hey, can I help you?" And he says, "Yeah, I lost my keys." So the police officer's looking around the light as well. Finally, the police officer says, "Is that where you dropped your key? Did you drop your keys around here?" And the drunk man says, "No, I think I dropped them in the park somewhere." And the police officer says, "Then why are you looking around the light?" And he says, "Well, because there's light here. It's easier." And one of the things I've had to do over the last several months is look to see how my company, which functioned one way, honestly, literally a month before the pandemic, it functions very differently now. I've made a whole lot more money because I was not trying to get my customers to see what it was that I had to offer as much as it was looking at my customers and seeing how much their needs had changed regarding publishing, regarding stories, regarding transmedia, regarding how to communicate what they do better, communicate the themes of their life better. So I want to leave you guys with something. And in fact, let's see, we only have about 8 more minutes, but I'm going to leave you with a concept called the hero's journey. And I'm sure, I know all of you are intelligent, and I'm sure you've probably heard of the hero's journey. But the hero's journey is kind of like a hack that those of us in the writing and the publishing world use. And the hero's journey is essentially a set of prescribed stages that a hero, the hero of your story, the protagonist, the good guy of your story, has to go through in order to learn something valuable and therefore be transformed. And you've guessed it. The thing that he has to go through is a difficulty. It's a stress. It is a loss of some sort. And so what's interesting is if you can, by the way, you can look this up online. In America, there's a minimum of 12 steps in this hero's journey. And each of the steps correlate to the numbers on the clock, starting at 12 and going all the way back to 12. And so the story starts off where the hero, you, me, Lori, we're in our normal world. And then something causes us a difficulty, something pushes us out of that normality, a problem comes up that we have to leave our normal comfort zone in order to solve. So that first step is what we call the refusal of the call, because we all want to be normal. I mean, we all want to be comfortable. We all, we don't want things to change that much. But it's normal in every hero's life, in every individual's life, to refuse the call, because there might be danger associated with it. And there is a lot of unknown associated with it. The second thing is, one of the second elements is that a mentor will appear. That is to say, someone who's been through the difficulty you've been through, someone who has struggled in the way that you're going to struggle, kind of pops up. Now, you might not recognize that mentor, but you'll realize as you get further and further into the difficulty of trying to cycle back around to normality, you're going to remember an old mentor's words or an action or an event or something kind of cryptic that's going to come to play at a critical time in your life. But then eventually you're going to find a companion, and that companion is someone who's going to be with you during the major part of that journey. And of course, as you kind of cycle around and you kind of face your demons, you face your opposition head on, you're going to have a bunch of bumps and bruises. You're going to experience a lot of loss, but you're eventually going to find that treasure. You're all that hardiness, all of that working hard is going to benefit you. But then there's another interesting juncture, is that you're going to get so used to struggle that you're not going to want to cycle back around to normality. So oftentimes we need some other impetus to actually push us out of that comfort space of struggle and have us cycle back around to normality. But what's interesting is this. I use the hero's journey as an illustration of the three kinds of customers that you have that are, if you want to say, up for the taking. People who really need things. Number one, there is someone who needs a mentor. So regardless as to what service you offer, there's someone who needs a mentor. That is to say, someone who needs a guide. People who will pay you on retainer even. I've had that from all over the world. People pay me just in case. They pay me to answer the phone whenever they call. They pay me to champ talk them through a situation. So there's the mentor. There's also people who need a companion. There are people who need someone to be close by, not someone who is in a mentorship capacity, but someone who is in a service-oriented capacity, someone you could call up and you could dump on, someone you could complain to, someone whose shoulder you can cry on. Last but not least, in terms of what customers need, if there is a rescuer, you might consider that a coach, where customers need someone to actually push them forward, to get them out of a holding pattern and actually push them on to greatness. So the way I look at customer service or reaching out to customers during this pandemic is I've realized one thing. Your product and you yourself cannot be the hero in your customer's life, because there's really only room for one hero. So when you look at your customer's perspective, you got to realize that you got to put your customer in a position of being the hero of their own story. There's not enough room for you and them. So for example, you've got to make your customer realize that they picked the right mentor. So yeah, you could laud yourself for the role that you play in your customer's life, but it's your customer who gets the credit for finding the right mentor. Same thing when it comes to a business partner or a companion, someone who can walk through that struggle with them, someone who they could reference, someone who will do the things that they cannot do, give the advice that they don't have, the companion. Same sort of thing. You want your hero, you want your consumer to be in the position of believing and realizing that they picked the best companion. And last but not least, there are consumers who need to be rescued. There are consumers who make lots of mistakes and they pay lots of money in order to get out of the problems that they've created for themselves. But ultimately, we're each the hero in our own hero's journey. So if you can kind of turn the map around and look at your consumer and say, what issues are my consumer wrestling with? What do they need? Not what do I have to offer them, but if I can look at what they need, and can I be flexible and modify my normal services to fit that, you will find yourself, as I've experienced over the last several months, in another category, in another class of provider. So anyways, that's my little spiel. Hopefully that helps.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So that's really good advice, right? Think of on your customer side, not thinking on your side what you can do for your customers, but thinking on your customer side, what do they need, and then what can you provide for them? So that's really good. Thank you, Robbie. If you are watching us online, once again, you can meet with us at NashvilleNetworkingBusinessLuncheon.com. We also have groups on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. And then we also have a website, email list you can join on our website as well. So this is the end of our recorded portion, and then we will continue the rest of our meeting offline. Thanks so much for visiting us.